Hello and welcome to the Say It Sister podcast. I'm Lucy and
I'm Karen, and we're thrilled to have you here. Our paths crossed years ago on a shared journey of self-discovery, and what we found was an unshakable bond and a mutual desire to help others heal and live their very best lives.
For years we've had open, honest and courageous conversations, discussions that challenged us, lifted us and sometimes even brought us to tears. Now we want to share those conversations with you. We believe that by letting you into our world, you might find the courage to use your voice and say what really needs to be said in your own life.
Whether you're a woman seeking empowerment, a self-improvement enthusiast, or someone who craves thought-provoking dialogue, join us as we promise to bring you real, unfiltered conversations that encourage self-reflection and growth.
So join us as we explore, question and grow together. It's time to say it, sister.
Welcome everyone, welcome to spring, welcome to spring-like energy. We are ready for the light to return. Winter has been long and we're waking up from our slumber, and there are signs of life busting through the ground. The birds are returning and singing, and I've been finding lots of joy looking out of my window and seeing all these different birds feeding on the seeds, and just knowing that the nights are gonna draw out in a very, very different way for us. And whilst we are aware that the world seems slightly crazy and dark right now, we want to fill our heads with the light. We want to try and put things down, put the endless to-do list down and the commitments, and consider the way that the dark is trying to consume us, to become more conscious so that we can say to each other, it's time to bring more light in. And when you think about it, everything is made up of light and darkness. And we have light and dark inside ourselves. So our work as women is to make sure that we take the time to acknowledge and support the dark, to release, so that we can be more light, more full, more embodied. If you're listening in the Northern Hemisphere, welcome springtime, the spring equinox on the pagan wheel of the year. This is the time when the goddess Astara makes the first day of spring something really beautiful and profound. We want to connect back to Spring Goddess and Mother Earth. We want to connect to our true selves. When we think about the spring, it's about the dawn. It's about springtime and new beginnings. For me, it's a visual feast as the earth comes back to life. And I always think about the daffodils and the tulips, the crocuses, and the flowers that are associated with rituals and ceremonies. When you look at them and you just think, oh, thank God it's here. And also the butterflies are another one for me. And for me, I have a personal link to butterflies. And every time I see a butterfly, it reminds me of a baby that I miscarried. And every time I see it, it brings a sense of hope for me and a sense of joy that this baby is, around me in the aretha somewhere. So really, we're coming back in now, but we're coming into a different place. And we're thinking about the cycle of life and transformation that occurs during the spring season. What comes to your mind for spring, Lucy?
Oh, I am just buzzing with energy. Spring is my favourite season out of all of them. Although every time I'm in a new season, I say this is my favourite, but it always comes back to spring. And I think maybe it's because after this long period of darkness, especially in the UK, where we don't get many blue days, most of them are grey sky kind of days where there's very little on the trees. There's plenty of nature around, but it just feels grey and dark. And it's cold, you don't want to go outside, and then suddenly you get these little bursts of energy. And then, like you say, at the equinox, the days are balanced. And so you're like, yes, let's maximize this. So I literally come to life. And one of the first things I end up doing is getting into my garden. So it's about seeds, it's about bulbs, it's about cutting back, clearing away. I get my cushions out, tidy up all the patio furniture, and I just get really into action, really busy. But it's all about optimism and hope. And then on the other side, because we are going to get rainy days again, April showers and all of that. So that's when I put away my winter coats, my winter boots. And so I do the packing away as well as bringing stuff out. So I love spring.
Yeah, for me, it's the idea of like the later nights and being able to walk along with less baggage because we're not carrying as many things. We've not got as many like bulky clothes on and just feeling like we are generally lighter in ourselves. Similar to you, I went into a crazy cleaning spree yesterday. I wasn't planning it. I woke up and I was like, dust. I mean, it'd been there. God knows how long it's been there. But yesterday it got zapped, and it was just like this feeling of I have to do this, and I have to do it now. And it just came over me. And a couple of hours later, and the house, doesn't look that different actually, but it feels different. And I
Yeah.
feel like that is that whole embodiment when we go into spring. It's almost like you're kind of putting your shoulders back because you're hunched over in the winter and you're cold and you're trying to stay warm, and everything starts to sort of, we're going back into the back of our bodies, which I'm now learning that not the backside, but the back of our bodies is more feminine. And that makes sense to me because I always say to people, go into the back of your body and open yourself up. Because when we are hunched and forward, we're in the more like forward position and we're more going forward. And there's this idea of, which is very spring, by the way, as well, the idea of like coming back into the back of our bodies and opening up and looking what's around us and sensing things is more feminine. And that comes back to that place of, when we can widen ourselves out, we can see things differently and we're more awake, and therefore we can make decisions differently. So I've gone off on a tangent with that one, but I just needed to say it.
Don't you think there's something really feminine about the back as well, with all the lines and the curvature as well? There's something quite sexy about an open back, and then in the spring, in the summer, that's it. We're wearing clothes that do just flow and accentuate the body. So totally get that feminine edge, and yeah, love that. And you know, one of the things about even just the clothes that we wear, they do tend to be, again, a lot more feminine clothes. And I love the springtime clothes. And even if you just go and walk into the shops, you'll start to see that now it's filled with, soft pinks and greens and purples and yellows and all these beautiful colours that reflect, I guess, the flowers that are amongst us. And yeah, when I open my wardrobe, yeah, all of the dark wintry colours, they all go away. And out comes sunshine. So I love that as well. And they are softer fabrics. They are more floaty fabrics. Because I don't want to feel constrained. I want to walk barefoot on the grass. I want to paint my toenails and get my pretty jewellery out again. So it's really that I think I feel more feminine, absolutely, in the summertime. Um,
There's a
yeah, that
beautiful poem which I will post. I will post it on our Facebook page that people can go and have a look at it. And it's called "I'd Pick More Daisies," and it's written by a woman who is basically talking about, if I was to live my life all over again, I would play hooky more because it's an American voice. I would, which basically means, I wouldn't. I would just avoid the things I don't want to do. I wouldn't go. I would be going out more than going into school. And she talks about walking barefoot in the grass and picking more daisies, and it's that there's an innocence and a childlikeness to the springtime because everything's in abundance, and there's just a sweetness in the air as well. Like the smells are coming back, and if I think about daisies, I always go back to childhood and sitting in the grass and
yeah,
making the daisy chains and then putting them in my hair, and I do that with Catalina, and and it just takes me back to that time when just even smelling the grass, and the slightly wet grass sometimes, and just as children sitting in it and just being immersed in the smells. I never ever get tired of the smell of freshly cut grass. It's a beautiful thing. And for me, like when I think about spring, it's this idea of the sun and the moon, the spring equinox, equal days and nights of equal length and harmony and balance. And that is so needed in the world right now, where we are looking at a time when we want to balance the masculine and the feminine, and we want to do it in a healthy way. We want to do it in a way that is honoring and supportive of each other, and of each side of ourselves as well. So what's coming up for you when you think about balance and harmony?
um, so I like to live as much of my life outdoors during the warmer and lighter days. And at spring equinox, I'd booked my first camping trip. And that is absolutely about the balance because we don't have any natural light at night. So we rise early with the sound of the birds. You hear all the zips unlocking, and then you go out and hopefully you'll see a sunset. It all depends on the British weather. But then you're in the flow of that cycle. You get busy, you do your stretches, you have so many moments of mindfulness and being in awe of the world. And then as soon as the sun goes down, that's it. You light a fire, and sit around that until it gets a bit cold, and then you go to bed. And so for me, my outdoor camping trips, or whether I'm in my garden at home, I feel totally at balance because you have lots of busy action stuff of the stuff you've got to get done. But equally, there's the time of just taking it all in, listening to the birds, noticing the dew or the insects, staring into the fire. And it is absolutely about that balance. And again, you're up with the sunrise, but you'll see, hopefully, a beautiful moon at night. So it just encompasses everything. And I think often when we get so busy in life, or we've been so tuned into the news and all the bad news stories, and get into that anxiety and that frustration that we all feel in our lives, um, recapturing that balance. For me, every time I just either look up or go outside to reclaim that balance, because absolutely we need it. We can't restore ourselves if we don't get that balance.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it? And I feel like for me, just even listening to the birds is everything. You know, I can hear them outside now. They're like, there's a lot of trees around where we live, and there's certain times as well. I mean, in the morning, as we get more and more into the seasons, the bird life is incredible, and the noises in the morning when they literally wake you up at like
Yeah.
5 o'clock in the morning, and you're a bit like, oh, it's a bit early. Do you know what I mean? But it is so beautiful then to be able to fall back to sleep with the bird songs, there, and then they wake you back up again, and it's just super intense. But what a beautiful way to be reminded that there is a world out there, and there are seasons, and there is nature, and there is constant movement and flow around us. Whether we connect to it or not, it's around. So we have a choice to make. I think when I think about spring, I think about maidenhood, and I think about it's something that's more distant to me now as a midlife woman. The idea of me in maidenhood feels quite alien to me. But what I have done is done a lot of healing work with my maiden. So my journey over the last definitely 10 years, and especially over the last, I would say the last quarter, I have been going back into my maidenhood years and doing the deep healing work that I needed to do for her to feel free, for her to feel like she could be present in me again, because there was a lot of things that happened during my maidenhood years that weren't supportive, weren't empowering, around my female body and form. And I feel like this is something that young women are having to face. This is never going to go away. We're always going to have to remind ourselves that we are not objects, that we are not here to please men. Great if we can do that in an honoring way, of course, that's a lovely thing to do. But I feel like the energy and the steer for young women has to be around them owning themselves and not being objectified, and not being, looked at for their female form, for what they can give, for their sex, their sexuality or sensuality. So that's been a big piece of work for me, and it's one that I will continue to do, because I want all parts of me, all stages of me, to be honoured, supported, and actually heard. Like, there was a lot of conversations I needed to have with that young woman, where she wasn't heard and she needed to be heard. And so holding space for her has been truly incredible and beautiful. And it also means that when my own daughter goes through it, we're not in that phase and we've got a way to go, that I will be able to hold space for her in a very different way, because I'll have done my own healing work. So that's a big one. And I certainly do want to get back into that, the joyousness of youth, like have more fun, have more play, have more spaciousness, and less of the sort of concerns and the worries that we get to in midlife. So that's something that for me is a priority, because I'm trying to be less purposeful in some ways, and making sure that I take time out for myself, so that I'm not driven by purpose, and the whipping stick is, at least acknowledge that it's in my sort of space. So that's the energy that I'm cultivating for, and I think spring's a great time to do that.
Yeah, I'm a springtime baby. So and I don't know why, but we always call it lambing season in our family because from about the end of February to about the end of April, we have a birthday every single week. And we've also got Mother's Day in there, and we've got the Easter celebrations. And so, what I really love about this energy is it pulls me out into the world. And so, even if I don't want to embrace my inner maiden, she's out there because she's connecting with people and, around birthdays and festivals and celebrations, you do go and see people that you don't normally bump into. So whether it's my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, wider people in my family because of birthdays. And so for me, it's that first, just because of the timings of all the birthdays and celebrations, but it's that first coming out of the darkness, because the last time most of us got together was at Christmas, which was, in the darkest part of winter. And now we're all out ready to see one another. And then we all start making plans. So where are you going on holiday? Or, oh, we should have a barbecue together. And so we all start seeding these little plans about how we can be more connected. And so that really excites me. And I'm also an Aries baby. So is my daughter, because our birthdays are only a week apart. So we also get this burst of energy and this creativity and this passion that seems to come with Aries. But when we're in our month, with all the light and the excitement and family and everything else, we're just absolutely buzzing, which is why I said I think it's my favourite season. Um, and then we obviously get into the next festival, which will be Beltane or May Day. And so again, it's the first long bank holidays where again, we're outside, we might be wearing t-shirts and shorts or skirts and stuff. And so it's like this new energy comes. And so for me, um, this time now, or probably during, late February, March, is when I start planting my seeds, my metaphorical ones as well as my physical ones for my garden. And I don't do resolutions. But I do sort of set intentions at the beginning of the year, and it is around this time of year where I go into action. I start planting the seeds, and then I start nurturing and cultivating and starting seeing things come together. But the Aries energy makes me impatient, so I have to be careful not to push things into reality. And so that really does come up for me so much about this time of year. But I think, like I said, I'm an Aries, I'm a springtime baby. We've got all these festivals, so that's what gives me this energy. So the maiden is there, whether I like it or not. And then the summer, that's when I think I go into the motherhood about taking care of everyone and being the picnic supplier and the barbecue maker and the host of things.
Wow. I'm also my birthday is May Day. It's actually on the 3rd, but it's that
Oh,
weekend.
beautiful.
So I get when you're talking, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, wow, we're kind of talking about astrology a little bit here as well today. And I was thinking about this before I came on because I thought I I was really into astrology when I was younger, and I would like always get books for my birthday, that kind of thing. When I was a lot younger, and I would always be reading my horoscopes, and it was something. And then I've lost contact with it a little bit because I've kind of entered lots of different phases, and there's been lots of work that needed to be done. And then in the last couple of weeks, I've been getting more into that again and more like looking at, birth charts and what's going on for me this year and what's going on for Catalina, and then looking at, you know, cycles and all of that. So it's been fascinating because I feel like I'm having this pullback into, I've always been feminine and I've always been highly on the feminine side, but it's becoming different, a different form. It's like people would say, you're very velvety, you're very, touch is one of my things, and now I'm like, I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see myself as other people see me, I think. And it's
Are
been,
you a Taurus?
I'm a Taurus, so I'm
Yeah.
I'm grounded. Like once I'm on board with something, there's no stopping me. It's like a charging ball. I'm literally the charging ball. But I have to get that feeling first, and then it's like, and I'm also like you, very impatient, because things don't move fast enough for me. Because once I'm like, this is what's happening, then it needs to happen and it needs to be happening now. So there's
But the Taurus energy is amazing because after you've got the fire and the passion at the start of the zodiac, with Aries and like taking the lead and planting those seeds with that creativity, it's the Taurus energy that actually then makes it into action. Because otherwise we just keep lighting lots of new fires and we don't actually ever, extinguish any. So actually our partnership is beautiful for that.
It works. I mean, that's why it works so well, doesn't it? And it's amazing, isn't it? Because we do all this work and we do all this work inside ourselves, and then it's like we were born on a certain day at a certain time. And then we embody all of that, and then we show up in the world in a certain way. And sometimes we're absolutely true to that part of ourselves, and sometimes we're not. And it's all okay because it's all about learning and growth. But it's almost like it's really important, I think, to go back to the basics, to go back to the simple things like birth charts, because it tells us a lot about who we are. And for me, like I forget things and then I reconnect in again. And I feel like this is all part of my journey. But I love the fact that I'm starting to really see myself
Mm,
in a way that I'm often told I am. But I've been a bit disconnected from it. Like I know there's
mm.
people say, oh, I see this in you. I know they're telling the truth. But now I'm like, wow, this has been always like, I've always been like this. There's a part to do the self work to purify yourself, to sort of heal the bits where we've got diminished or hurt or felt a little bit broken, even. But actually, the true essence, the true core of us has always been like this and will always be
Yes.
like this. And I think we need to do the healing, we need to do the deep dive work. Otherwise, we forget our essence, we forget who we are, we forget who we were born as. We forget all of that. And of course, we have life experiences that give us new elements to it.
Mm.
When we come back down to it, we've always been like this. And there's something very powerful in that magic for me.
Yeah, I turned away from astrology, even though I always knew I am the typical Aries, but I turned away from it because I think we'd got it in the daily newspapers or the monthly magazines that we would read, and it'd be like, okay, so a twelfth of the population are going to have exactly the same day, and it just, I think the almost like the patriarchal side of world just dismissed it and made it all a bit ridiculous, not even woo woo, it was just seen as ridiculous. Whereas now we have access to so many different apps that will give us our specific birth chart. And so if I'd have been born later in the afternoon, I'd have had a different energy. And then we get all of our other life experiences, our own intuition, the people we meet, it shapes us. And so, of course, we're all completely unique. And so, therefore, it's not the fate of you're born on this day, so therefore your life is going to be like this. We still have our own choice and our own journey to go on. And we were talking about this balance earlier on. Um, with that, I always think of the sunrises and sunsets because every day is a brand new day, isn't it? And I'm often not awake early enough, or I don't see the sun rises. But every time I see a sunset, it really helps me just to pause and just be really grateful of everything that's happened that day. And I'm usually sharing it with a loved one, which makes it even more beautiful as well. And so I think although we have this big master scheme that we've got to go on, I think it's really important also just to do the daily practices, the daily checking in, daily gratitude, because one of my biggest message I get is we've all got to bring the light. And I think of course, we've got to do shadow work, and that's really hard stuff. But I think there's almost a draw to let's go to the darkness, let's like hear all the bad news stories and turn against each other in division, all of that stuff. And even like the violent music and the violent movies that are out there, I actually just want to watch rom-coms and really hopeful things. And that's the message I guess I want everybody to have at this time of year is the light is coming. Bring more light into your life. Watch the sunrises. What are you like with that?
The thing that I want to double underline here that you've just said that's super important is that if somebody is listening and going, I am driven into these dark spots, I cannot stop watching the news, or I'm on social media and I'm, all these things are popping up and my nervous system is, totally over egged at the moment, or I've started I'm listening to violent music or whatever it might be. If you are sitting in that category and you're struggling to turn off, it's highly likely that your nervous system has gone way over what it needs to be and that you are highly stressed at this point, and this is the time to reset and actually reconnect back into yourself. Because as somebody who was diagnosed with PTSD, I know all the way through my life I've had levels of PTSD in my system through various experiences. It took later on in life for me to really handle that. And when I look back at different phases, when I was very rock and roll and I was partying really hard, and I would, listen to rock and roll music, and I was like quite manic, but brilliantly manic. I mean, I was channeling the manicness. So it was like, it looked fantastic, and I was delivering lots of amazing things. So, it's like tick, 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 tick. My nervous system was destroyed actually. And, it would make me stop. I would get ill or something would happen physically to me. And then I couldn't physically walk or something, like with my accidents with my knee. And then I realized how bad my nervous system was, because I would like be floored, because it was the stopping that made me realize how low I was, because I was constantly generating and manifesting and, just more, more, more. So I think we owe it to ourselves to notice where we're being pulled, where does it feel good inside, and what help is needed. It might be you can go do something yourself, like spend time in nature, or listen to some beautiful softer music, or take a long hot bath, light some candles. It might be as simple as that, but you might need more. I certainly need more when I'm like that. So when I get pulled into stuff, I'm like, oh, my PTSD is really woken up in this moment. So how do I now go and regulate myself so that I can be coming from a regulated nervous system? Because that's really important. And I'm having to do this more and more every day now. Like every day I'm tapping, I'm playing certain types of music, more than ever before, because of what's going on in the world. So I think we need to just be very aware of ourselves and what's happening, and actively choose to disconnect, to reconnect. So that's a big one for me. I mean, I think just looking out the window sometimes for me. I mean, I know that sounds really simple. Obviously, getting outside is the next level to that. But sometimes it's just like now the sun is beaming in. It is so bright. The windows are open, so they've got like a light breeze coming in, and I've got a really light shirt on. Like I've got out my jumpers today anyway. Let's see what the weather does tomorrow. And it's like I can feel the breeze coming in, and it's just filling me with joy as we're talking, and you're in your green and I'm in my green. And I'm like, the winter, it feels like winter's quite far away, and we know how the weather can change in this country. So we might feel like we're in winter tomorrow, but right now, right here in this moment, the light's here, it's like on my hair, and I'm like, I am living for these moments. So for me, it can be very, very simple. And there are places in Yorkshire that I like to go to where I can get up high on big rocks, because I've got some beautiful rocks up here. And when the sun's setting, I'm going to do that with Catalina this year and Rich. We've never done it with her before because she was a bit young, but now we could take her into these, and she's not going to do something ridiculously silly, because she understands the parameters of danger. So that's something I'm looking forward to doing, in the coming weeks and months.
Oh, well, this is the time of year, like I've said, to start setting those seeds. So what seeds are you planting for the season ahead?
I am learning lots of new things, and it's quite crazy really, because I'm not good with technology really, generally speaking. I can do basics, like I'm literally like get my fat thumbs out, try a few things. If it doesn't work straight away, I'm like frustrated. So I'm not very patient with these things, but there's something in me now that's unfolding that's much more like, give it a go. What have you got to lose? I'm inspired by you and how you operate and how you work. I'm having conversations with other people who are like, well, have you tried this? Have you tried ChatGPT? Have you tried? And I feel like the world's like opening up, and I know this is computer generated, and I know there's issues with all of that. And at the same time, it's saving me so much time, because as a coach, I would always, you do your work with your clients, and then I'd type up the notes, because I'm very, very good like that. I'm very organized when it comes to getting things down and recording things. And those notes would take me like an hour to write. So on top of and I didn't charge anyone for that. And then I'd send it to my clients because I want them to be in the loop. And so I always go the extra mile. And now I'm like, I can speak into something.
Describe it.
and it does it for me. And then that's time that I've just, that's an hours that I've just won back, and I'm like living for it. So it's things like that that just feel, everything feels a lot easier and less of the graft and the like, that part of me that loves hard work, that do like to work hard, but she needs a bit of a break,
Yeah,
and
you need to work smarter, not harder. Seriously, you're Gen X.
so I'm letting her, I'm letting that part of me, perhaps it's my elder, I don't know, that's like, oh come on, you're making this too difficult. She's allowed out, so that's good. What about you? What seeds are you planting?
Um, so new business, which we will talk about soon, very exciting. So that is something that we've been seeding since about January time. And yeah, really excited about that. And therefore, new websites, new conversations, new collateral. And it's really allowed let's call it my left and right brain to come forth, because I am using AI to help, like how do I set up a website, or what would you put on a landing page? So that's brilliant. So I've got my structure, but it's all actually about creativity, about what is it we are creating together. So I've loved that, and the way that your energy and mine just seem to just come together. It's beautiful. Really loving that. um I set the intention of more health, wealth, and self at the start of the year, and those seeds are really happening now. So, joined a gym, re-looked at my diet,
Yeah.
getting in my steps, and now the weather is warmer, really enjoying my dog walks. So that feels like it's really coming forth, and I'm off to Costa Rica in a couple of weeks. So I'm really excited about getting out there into the world, because part of it was being out there in the world. So connecting with new friends, seeing new things, and having new experiences. Because again, in the winter, you tend to hibernate in your own little space. So lots going on for me. But I think one of the biggest things for me is allowing all of my secret selves to come out, the bits of me that I've allowed to deny for lots of different reasons. So I'm also allowing my badass self to come
Yeah.
out, the one who I was always told, you're too much, Lucy, you're too outspoken, you're too bouncy. I'm like, oh, sod it. So I'm going to unleash her a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to allow my selfish, unapologetic self to come out this year and see how that works for me. And what I mean by selfish is actually doing things for me, as opposed to that mother energy of doing everything for everybody else all the time.
Yeah.
Um, my truth speaker, which is part of what we're doing with this podcast, but actually there are so many wrongs in the world, and I can't be an innocent bystander. And so with my older feminine wisdom, I want to be able to really speak truth to that. And then the final bit is about, yeah, just living it large, but with having that peace. And I've realized that the only way I can have true peace in my life is to let all of those selves of me live out fully. So, um, I'm in my what I call my emperor stage of life. So the next 7 years, I'm gonna just be all out fully, and let's see what happens. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I think the big one is for me is to like create and then rest, and then create and then rest. It's quite simple because I am like hell belt. I'm literally, I can be like, I can just run and run and run. I'm like a Duracell bunny when I'm really connected to something. And it's just that, reminder to myself, like we always talk about what's the 20-year plan. And it just gives us permission to be like, we're doing great things. We're helping so many people, we're making a big impact. Sometimes for me, it feels like it's not enough. It feels like I need to do more, and I can get really caught up in that because I look at the world and I think, oh my God, so many people need so much help and there's so much work to do. And that's good to know. And at the same time, it does not help me to be at my best, because we have to be part of the long game. We have to be part of what's happening now, and we need to have a vision for what's ahead. And, if should things topple right now in the world, well, what are our solutions? How can we change systems to make them better and kinder and more empowering for people? Everyone, not just certain types of people. And it's like being able to sit with those questions a little bit for me as well. That kind of feels like a 20-year plan. because right now I'm in the movement, but I always feel like how are we going to make this different? Because we know what's not working, and that's part of our business offering. As we, as you've alluded to, we've got some exciting things we're going to be talking about in the coming weeks and months, of actually providing these solutions that do create, as we always say, like, we want to deepen the awareness of what's going on. We also want to inspire change and action, but it needs to be inspired and it needs to come from the right place and not just the head.
And to be sustainable. Yeah.
Be sustainable and to be able to, live through, because what we don't want is lots of systems toppling, no positive solution, and then something comes in temporary. We've seen that in leadership in the UK with our, with certain parties where no one can take the leadership, and it's just like one person comes in and then they topple, and then someone else comes in and they topple, and it's just like, this is not leadership. This is about who, like, people being able to be in control of something, and they don't have the control. So all of that, I don't know what it looks like long term, but I know how
It's
it
exciting. It is. But for me, I think spring is hope, because we plant seeds and bulbs and cultivate, knowing that it will grow and something will blossom, and in a few months from now it'll all look and feel completely different. And I think that that's the key. And so as we close, I guess a really good question for ourselves, but also for all of you listening, when you're thinking about the seeds that you want to plant, first ask yourself, what is it you really want? I mean, if you were really brave and really free, what would you want in your life for you? And what are those seeds that you can plant now that will make that happen for you? So with that, we wish you well. Enjoy your spring sunshine, and we will see you back here next week for another episode. So thanks for listening, and we can't wait to welcome you next time.
Until then, use your voice, journal, speak or sing out loud. However you do it, we hope you join us in
Saying It's Sister.